Hey guys, it's Eric here. I'm going to do a little bit of a different update than I usually do. Mostly because I've been working really hard on one thing here. And that is for the let's do it like this. I've talked about Swedish role-playing games quite a lot. I mean, I made an entire series of Mutant and the Road to Mutant. I spoke a little bit about the Swedish role-playing games in general. I've just started talking about Mutant Chronicles. I am going to continue talking about that. But right now, I'm going to talk about a different game. I'm going to show you guys this because it's it's nicer. So I'm going to talk about this game. Here we go. This is the remake, the latest edition of Drakar och Demoner, or to translate, Dragons. Och is pronounced och. Many people think it's och, but it's och. Och. Demoner. Demons. Dragons and demons. And they always tended to use this Elric of Melniboné image for the front cover. It's a traditional thing now, so all editions have this, except for one, of course. But I'm going to talk a little bit about this. The background is as follows. Well, this is the latest edition, as I said, from the Kickstarter. I have issue 1515, so I have the 1515th box from the Kickstarter. I wasn't that quick in there. So, for the past year, I've been... last year I was a bit depressed because I hadn't played role-playing games properly for quite some time. So I decided that I want to relive a little bit of my childhood and have some fun with it. So I decided that I'd like to play Dragons and Demons. And I realized that Dragons and Demons don't really have an English version. Most of my friends are in Swedish. Due to YouTube, but also because I'm an asocial asshole. So most of my friends are on the international arena, and I didn't feel like, trying to find people close to me, gathering them together. I live in a small apartment, it's hard to get them in here, and all that. So I decided to use Roll20, really good app, web page, if you want to play role-playing games with people from all around the fucking world. So I started a little bit of a home project. Really fucking big home project now when I look back on it. And the thing was that Dragons and Demons, the original version, is a big patchwork. It's really confusing. And it's set in a very standardized fantasy setting. Like medieval Europe. Actually around the Mediterranean, but with more... Central European states. So I decided that, I'll look forward a little bit because I have several of the editions and the different settings books and all that. So I had decided to have a look at a game called, here it is. I'm not sure if I think this is the 5th edition, or it might be the 6th. The edition numbers are a little bit confused in this game series, honestly. So after the main campaign setting, which was called Erebaltor, was finished, they kind of finished it with a big meta-plot thing by Eric Granström. Love his books, by the way. And they created a new edition called Drakar och Demoner, Dragons and Demons, Chronopia. So here on the back we have Welcome to Chronopia. Chronopia is not well known as a role-playing game. It was hated by the Swedish role players, but there's a different reason for that. It was more known as a competitor to Warhammer Fantasy. Fantasy Battles, due to the fact that it became a miniatures game. But it was originally first a role-playing game, and even here it says like Drakar och Demoner, to point out like this is the brand, our brand, guys. And then up here, I have it mirrored so you guys can read the text without me having to flip it around in editing. So up here it says, contains the campaign setting Chronopia. So what the hell is Chronopia then? Well, Chronopia is a giant metropolis in a high fantasy setting. Originally, it was supposed to be like its own setting entirely, but then somebody, I don't know who, got a stupid idea to put it on the same planet as Erebaltor, and I never really liked that idea. Not important. But I'm going to open the book. It's a bit brittle because it's old. This book is probably 20 years plus by now. So I'm happy that it's survived as long as it has, but I can feel that the binding is starting to come off a little bit. This is a... I'm just going to hold it like this. This is a big picture of the entire world. It was written in a summer by Bill King, the setting, and was translated into Swedish. So Chronopia is a giant metropolis, the center of the world, yada yada yada. And there's a meta plot that there is an emperor, very Warhammer 40,000 style emperor, who is eternal. He doesn't die, but nobody has seen him in like a century or two. There are elves. There are elves. They are not your friendly little Tolkien elves who run around in the forest being all gay and happy. I said the same word twice there, with a double meaning. Double entendre, people. There are elves, but they have kind of adapted to the city, and they are really big assholes. The entire city is permeated by some kind of evil aura, which means that no one in the city is good. This is so typical 90s, you know, everything had to be dark and gritty and big shoulder pads and big shoulder pockets and stuff like that, so it's big on that part. This one. So the city is very similar to, I would say, Ankh-Morpork in a way, which is fine by me. I love Discworld, for example. And my campaign circulated in this world, this evil city, with a more Pratchett-esque humor. I removed a little bit the tension of all the darkness and evil that happens in the city and made it a little bit more humorous, which kind of worked for my playgroup. What more about the city? Yeah, it's evil. The city elves have adapted to the city. They become decadent and eviler. They are kind of like super fascist assholes. Well, Nazi, racist assholes, I mean. The dwarves are here. They have their own kingdom below ground. And above ground too. There's the emperor, as I said. Humanity is here. There is a mishmash of different ethnicities. There's a thing... well, it's always been a problem for role-playing games since its inception. That you have humans, and you have elves, you have dwarves, but you also want to have like a difference, a flavor to your different characters. Like you have a dwarf from a specific community, then you have a dwarf from another community. That would be two ethnicities normally. But due to the fact that the games were a bit limited in the thought process and people weren't that picky back then, they were all defined as different races. I changed that in this and called them like D&D does, like variants. You have the main race and then you have different variants of the race. It's a good solution. It's a halfway solution, but it works at least. Let's see what else. There's the trolls are here. Trolls are friendly. They are named after flowers, mostly because they are lobotomized, so they become friendly, big, and stupid. There are orcs. Orcs are like Mongolian barbarian invaders, and all the goblinoid races are called the Black Bloods. And they are all ruled by one race, and that's the ogres. The ogres are actually intelligent in this setting, and I love the idea of that. A ruling class of ogres who control all the goblinoid races. The goblins, half of them are loyal to the ogres, the other half live as thieves and paupers in the sewer system, in the catacombs beneath the city, because the city is ancient. It's like 5,000 years old. It's maybe even more. And it's been built upon city, and it's building up. You might be able to see a little bit here, like there's a lot of towers and stuff. I think I would say that they exaggerated a bit the size of the towers. I mean, when you think about it, architecture is not that easy, and when you think that you have medieval style architecture, you can't really build that tall buildings. Italy, I think, has some of the tallest buildings for the medieval period. It seems like they wanted to go with a medieval theme when you look at the pictures and also in the book, but I've been reading it, both this and the books, and I concluded that they are on a technological level by style and everything about the 17th century. So this is kind of like the first time there are like dirigibles and stuff like that, so, and steam power. So this is a steampunk RPG made in the fucking 90s. There are other races, of course. There are the different humans who don't get along. But there is another faction that is very important to remember. And that is the Devout. The Devout are the big bad evil guys of this setting. They are the metaplot. There was no real metaplot put out entirely into the setting to begin with. But they are pointing out that the big evil guys are the Devout. They are currently trying to conquer the world in the name of their dark god and the demons that serve him. I'm just trying to keep track of the time too. And they are like, humanity, fuck yeah. They believe that humans have the right to rule the world. They should rule the world. There's a little bit more of theological reasons behind this, but let's put it like that. It's way easier to do this if we talk about that. So you have your antagonist, which means that due to the fact that the continents are at war constantly, most people who come to Chronopia are war refugees, and that's why you have all the races of the world in the same place. That's a good reason to have them there. And most races are uniting against the evil. The evil, the big bad evil guys, the BBEG, are also in the city, so there's a bit of a problem there and conflict and everything. So the city is supposed to be like its own fantasy world, and there is enough of it here. Not that much, but there's a beginning to it, and it can be developed far more, which it was in the different source books. There was a problem, as normal with these types of games and the 90s, with the power creep, and everything had to be bigger, cooler, and everything, and grittier and darker, and blah blah blah. But I decided then that also, I forgot to say that the city is filled with crime and drugs and prostitution. Everything is legal, more or less. Except for when the emperor says that this shit is not legal. It's not legal for the sky to be blue. And the next day he says that candy is forbidden. And things like that. Everything is highly organized, like there are guilds for everything, clubs, secret societies, and everybody's plotting against the emperor and each other, and so on and so on. It's very Byzantine, Romanesque style of politics going on at all times. So I decided that due to this being like the last edition, before the newer edition, of course, I'm not overly fond with the new edition's rules, so I went to this one because I feel it's the most complete and best developed rules of series, and it kind of is. So the first part, if you look at the book here, it's not that visible, but you have like a small piece here that's separating. So this part is the rules. So I started by working out like the rules and translating them and stuff like that, and then I took like this part here where it starts with Chronopia, and I translated that to like having a base. And then I started trying to find people on Roll20, and I was successful. I had some problems with people dropping out. I think that's kind of common in a campaign, mostly because I had one Swedish guy, the rest were international players, and they didn't know the setting or how the rules worked or anything like that, so it was hard for them to get into it. And I mean, not everybody likes a new role-playing game. Some people think it would be like Dungeons and Dragons. It's not. Really, really fucking not. This game might be similar to Dungeons and Dragons, but more like AD&D First Edition. It would be closer to that. It's far more complex and deadlier. Like even one sword cut properly done in combat can insta-kill your character. But I ran my campaign. They were playing as a gladiatorial agency in one small quarter of the city, like a small neighborhood where they were trying to make their name, and they were succeeding. They were doing quite great, no matter what I was throwing at them. So good on them. They were really good. They played more. It was more of a character-driven game, because this one, of course, like most fantasy games and role-playing games, of course, they focus a lot on combat mechanics, because that's usually what you do. You go down the dungeon, you kill the goblins, you steal the treasure or the dragon or whatever. So they did something different, and we were trying out new rules and developing the world that they were in, like trying to clean it up, because some of the things were really stupid, some of the things were really cool. So, due to the fact that I had problems with player retention and a little bit of scheduling problems, I started to get burned out myself on this game. And it ended with me, like, 2 weeks ago, stopping the campaign entirely. But then we had been running some 20 plus sessions over 1 year, which is not bad. It's like the longest running campaign I've actually ever held. And I had sketched out like the plot line that I wanted to use with them. And they maybe did a quarter of that. At most a quarter. So I still have a lot of material left for the game. And the thing is that I had like these plot points that I was going to insert into the game a little bit here and there. But most of the time I let them act or decide what they want to do, and then just improvised what happened and reacted to their actions. I like doing that. Let the gamers decide where the campaign is going. It's really hard, but I love it anyway. It's very, very creative, but it demands a lot of you as a GM. Now the campaign is over. I stopped it. I'm going to let them, go on into eternity, and whatever happens, happens. I'm probably going to use them in the new world. So I got back to this. I have a lot of data now of the world and the rules. So I've currently been sitting down and rewriting a lot of the rules for Chronopia. I'm also reworking the entire world. And if there is an interest, I could continue updating here on YouTube. Because I'd like to get some feedback on my work and what I'm doing. So this is like Chronopia Redux. I'm going to, due to the fact that there's a race here called the Draconians, which are like dragonkin. I think they're like Draconians or in Dungeons and Dragons too. So I'm going to rework them too, because there's not a lot of information about them. Almost nothing at all. So I'm going to go and pick some information probably from the battle game, the tabletop battle game, or miniatures game, or whatever it's called, and integrate it into this world too. So I have all the source books. I'm currently working on all the different classes that are available, and then I'm going to like unify all the splat books into one big huge document and start rewriting the entire story. That's a big project, but still, as I said, I'd like to, if somebody is interested, to discuss this in the comments and update and everything, so you guys can follow my progress, because when I'm done, my plan is to be done in 3 or 4 months, and then upload it as like an open source game. Because this game is not done anymore. I don't know if they're going to do anything new with this at all. I know there's been discussions in Paradox what to do next, but this is like a rework of the original game, so I don't feel that I'm encroaching on them. I hope not, at least. Because I want a working campaign world that I can continue the stories, because I have a plan for what I want to do next, and it's going to be more combat oriented and diplomacy oriented, rather than just being in the city and trying to, build an empire. We tried that, it was fun, but I have more rules now and ideas on how to continue this. So as I said, like this is the third time I'm saying that. Let me know if you guys want to follow this progress in my work. And I'm even willing to have like an open talk session where we discuss ideas and stuff like that to integrate into the world. No problem. So this is like a development blog of what I'm doing currently. Except for, of course, recording and playing video games and talking about role-playing games. So with that, I'm going to end it here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you liked what you saw, do leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and do leave a comment down here. Let's discuss this game a little bit more. It's kind of worth saving in a way because it has a lot of potential. But for now, I'm going to sign off, and hopefully I'll see you guys in another episode. Bye bye!